G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 155, and with a big round just past us, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be giving a recap of the previous round, a update on Elijah Holland's situation, going to be taking a look at the Melbourne Demons as well and how they have improved so far this year, a fantasy recap from the round, a preview to round 7 and much, much more. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs.
He looks at his options and Jack Ginnivan says, boys, you brought me to the club to do justice!
But this guy has flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was. So guys, as always, he's been here the last few weeks, so I'm really impressed by it. My brother Jack, the co-host of the podcast, is here with me, and what a week of footy. We actually saw probably the best round of the year in terms of results, a lot of close encounters, a lot of high-scoring games, and a situation that we've really never seen in footy before with Elijah Hollands.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting week. It just come out today, actually, recently, that it was the most attended round so far this year. So the fans are getting to the games, and, you know, why wouldn't you after this week? Yeah, especially, it was a very entertaining weekend of football.
Yeah, I think most teams are really showing a lot, and other than maybe Richmond, I mean, a lot of other teams have shown at least something so far this year.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Tigers, if you look back against Carlton, they nearly stole that game too. So, I mean, it's been a pretty good start to the season, and it was a very good round last week. Let's quickly recap it. We all go all the way back to Thursday night, and we'll get into Elijah Hollands as a whole a little bit later. But the game itself, it was just another capitulation from the Blues. They had the game won. They had the game won against Collingwood, and it was a game that you would have... I mean, any other team would have expected them to hold on because Collingwood have struggled to score, but the Blues just lost it.
Yeah, they did exactly what they've done all season, Carlton, and it's really funny that Collingwood, who were basically on 39 points at the three-quarter time, doubled their score, basically, and won the game. And, you know...
I mean, it was one man who got them over the
line. Oh, yeah, it was... You just had to look at it and be like, who's the one player for Collingwood that's going to win this game for him? It was the guy that was done it in the first minute of the fourth quarter.
Well, he's done it for 99 games before that point.
Yeah.
He did it in game 100 as well. And... I mean, it wasn't too surprising in the end. We kind of knew, we saw this. People saw this coming from this third quarter when the Blues had the lead. I don't think anyone was sitting there watching the game at the game thinking this game's won by the Blues.
Well, you could see even when they were kicking a few goals and stuff, and they were showing the crowd. You just saw the Blues fans, and you're like, they don't look like they're happy here. They look like they're just nervous and just waiting for it to turn.
I mean, you can't blame them.
No,
you can't blame them at all.
It's well, they're what? I think they're 5-1 at half time, but they're 1-5 on the ladder.
Yeah,
it's unheard of.
Yeah,
really.
The second half drop offs are just it's definitely. I mean, it's probably maybe a little bit of fitness, but it's definitely the mental factor. They just completely lost confidence in closing out games.
Yeah, no.
I mean, literally every single game this year they have dropped off considerably after half time.
Yeah, and
the one win they got, they almost got run over by Richmond, who have shown next to nothing this year.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, at three-quarter time, I think the ruck Pitnet shouldn't do what he did to Dacos and just, you know, pretty much revved him up to really just do that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, like, let's
probably
be honest.
The one player you don't do it to.
Yeah.
Just remind him. I remember.
It's the one player on Collingwood you don't do it to. He's done it for 99 games. Why would you try and rev him up for his 100th?
Yeah.
You don't need an opposition player to do that to him. And, you know, like, Jeremy Cameron's all-time game was the next night, but that quarter, it might go down as the best quarter all year. Yeah, like Naz was last year against Melbourne. That might go down as the quarter of the year.
Yeah, I mean, players like that. There's so few of them in the game.
Yeah,
that I can only think of maybe a couple just off the top of my head, and he's definitely one of them. Then we got to Friday night: Geelong Dogs and Sydney and the Giants. Double header Friday night. I don't like it.
Exactly what every fan wanted.
Yep, every single fan wanted that. Games that are clashing on Friday night. We start with the Dogs and the Cats. This was supposed to be the marquee game of the night, and didn't get anywhere near it. I mean, unless the marquee Jeremy Cameron kicking 6 goals. I mean, other than that, It was a pretty poor night for the Dogs.
We kicked 10.
Yeah, no, he kicked 10, but the Dogs, very poor
Oh,
night for them.
yeah. It's the...
Not even just on the scoreboard, but the injury front.
Oh, no, they were absolutely... It was carnage everywhere. And, again, I've been saying it all year, can the Dogs' defense hold up? It was the first sign that it doesn't, again. And is it Bont and bust, English and bust? Mullen absolutely blanketed Bontempelli all night.
Yeah, he was gone. He couldn't get a touch, and he just had no influence on the game. And for a player like Bontempelli, who, I mean, a lot of people would just assume is just untaggable, Mullen really showed how to, take him out of a game.
Well, you look at the comparison of how they both look. Like, you'd think that Bontempelli would just be able to push him around.
Mullen played it really well about how he just pushed him into the stoppage to have no influence because, when Bontempelli can get away from stoppage and he can get that sort of movement away. He's such a good user of the football. The game obviously slows down around him. Everyone's commented on that.
Yeah.
And he just got shut down. And Richards was okay, but he
I
was still coming off an injury.
I think he's still coming off those 2 injuries of the last 2 weeks before. But he did play well, and then the carnage on injuries was just...
Yeah, so what do we have? We had Lobb with an injury to his hamstring. O'Donnell, I believe, was a calf. Liberatore was concussed. And there was one more player
Darcy.
Obviously, Sam Darcy with the ACL.
You saw... I was the one watching that game, and you just saw Darcy go down. No contact around him, and he's just... Yeah, it was I knew it straight away it was an ACL. Like, the best case scenario was...
What happened with him last year.
Yeah, happened with him last year, but nah. I just felt like that was it, and probably their premiership hopes go down with it.
Yeah. I mean, a player of his credentials, just the size of him and just the way he moves, that's a premiership. That's a player that's built for a push for the Dogs for a premiership. And him gone, Aaron Norton gets the best defender now, and Aaron Norton's actually had a very underrated, 16 months of football, really. But now he's going to have to take that number one role, and unfortunately for the Dogs, they don't really have a second key. Anywhere.
And the fact is that they want to play Rory Lobb back, and maybe when Tim English comes back, he might have to go forward, but they don't really have that other person that they need. And if they chuck Buku Khamis forward, well, we said this last year, he was actually doing well before this game. Really, he was doing well.
Unfortunately for Buku Khamis, who we've been singing his praises playing in defence, he got taught a lesson against Jesse Cameron. 10 goals kicked on him.
Oh, I don't think all 10 were on him. I think a few was, to be honest, I think it was a few on O'Donnell before he went down, and they kept on swapping it, but I think, Jezza was back.
Yeah. I mean, he had a pretty slow start to the year. I didn't even play an opening round due to injury in the off-season, and obviously from that grand final, but, he waited, he bided his time, and now he's like, all right, I can get my Coleman back. I just need to have a 10-goal game here, and he just put it on.
And he's back to what? So King's leading it with 22 or something, and
he broke down
he's about 50. Yeah. And the thing is, he's going to play these teams again, and he played the Dogs, who were in the top 8. Yeah, well, they were a top 8 team. Let's be honest, they should be. He's got to play the West Coast probably again because they were North Melbourne probably. All these other lower teams that he always plays well against.
Down in Geelong as well, where he absolutely loves playing. So yeah, I mean, he could be in for a big. He could be back. Could be somewhat chasing the Coleman down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Swans and then the Giants to the Sydney Derby game that was like the AFL was just like, who cares? Who cares? Don't worry about it. It's actually the better game.
And it worked. It probably worked out well for people who have KO subscriptions and stuff. It worked out perfectly with the lightning delay.
Yeah, the lightning delay that took an hour of football. What would have happened if the game stopped at half time is it would have been given a draw, I believe.
Yeah.
But because the game continued into the second half with no other lightning issues, the Swans would have actually won the game if they stayed in front. It didn't matter in the end. The Swans ran away winners. The scoreboard kind of lies a little bit. The Giants got beaten by, I think, was it 40-odd points in the end, but they did really well. They were with the Swans all the way until about 10 minutes to go, and then Sydney just lit it up. They just flicked the switch and just said, we're going to go win this game. We're not letting you back into it. Errol Goulden obviously been out for a while, but Justin McInerney, even though in his first game without Errol Goulden in the team against Hawthorn, I was a little bit disappointed. Since then, since the bye, at this point, I mean, there's a reason why he's the highest score involvement player in the game right now. The way he plays that middle of the ground is just...
like nobody else.
No one else at the moment. And he's using the ball well, which is something that has been questioned from him in the past. And right now, it's very early to say, but he would be an All-Australian form. We saw Ed Richards last year be that top score involvement player, and he built his season around it and got an All-Australian nomination. So,
yeah.
I mean, Justin McInerney's playing that role right now. The Giants played the role of going to tag Isaac Heaney, and he still had 28 touches, but really didn't have a lot of impact in the game. So I think it was a good job from the Giants. But now, Justin McInerney, it's going to be interesting to see if the next few weeks teams go to tag Justin McInerney instead.
Yeah.
They've got a big game this week. God, who do the Swans play this week? I can't
The Dogs.
remember. The Dogs, of course. Dogs don't really tend to tag, but wouldn't be too surprised if they chuck a young kid next to him just to keep him accountable. I wouldn't be too surprised with that.
You'd think about it, but the thing is, with the Dogs' injuries, who've they really got to do that? You don't want to. There's suspicion that Bontempelli could be. So
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Play, but I mean, it's a 6-day break as well, so that could be something that takes into account. But overall, the game itself, the Swans played really well. Isaac Heaney was shut down, and the Giants, to their credit, were, I think, one of their better games of the year.
I think they just missed a few opportunities, especially in that third quarter.
So
in that third quarter,
term.
yeah, I think 2 goal 8, it was 20 to 3 goals straight 18. It's just like they could have done what they did last year, and to be honest, it felt like that's what they were doing. Like they had the big rev up from Kingsley, and it was like they came out with fire in their belly, just they just couldn't put it on the scoreboard.
Yeah. The hour break for was probably longer than an hour. The Lightning delay. When the Giants came back out, they looked like they were ready to go. They just couldn't put it on the scoreboard. And they would stay close into that fourth quarter, but eventually, I think it was Nick Blakey who kicked the goal, which just broke the spirits of the Giants. And Nick Blakey, what a performance from him as well. He had a kilometre in metres gained. Really loving the way he's playing this year. And I think there's something that's probably not really seen from him until this year is his actual playing his defensive role as well. Like getting back to help his defenders and then getting on the counter and working forward. You
think last year with all the injuries you guys had, maybe he's benefited that? So then last year he's had to become that defender, but then he's went back this year back into that role of the offensive game that he actually really well at.
Yeah,
he might
something that has been talked about as well. I mean, those sort of years when you just get nothing going right, it can be a year of like learning experience for some teams. Like I think it was a couple of years ago when the Cats won the premiership and then made the grand final or won the premiership, then missed finals the year after. They learned a lot, found a couple of kids, and then the year after that they went back up again. A lot of teams can have those moments when you just learn something from it and then shoot back up. And I think the Swans have really learned from a lot of things. Before we move to the next game, I want to talk about Charlie Curnow just a little bit because has been a lot of talk of him about the last week or two, regarding like he's playing his role. And Kane Cornes came out and said that, you didn't sign him to be a role player. And I totally agree with that sort of statement. However, I don't think any Swans fan is going to give a fuck if he kicks 50 goals this year, which he's on track to do. He's having an okay season on the goal front. If he kicks 50 goals and kicks less than Joel Amartey and Isaac Heaney, let's say he does. Let's say he kicks 40. Swans win the premiership. I'm not going to give a fuck.
No.
The fact that he's taking the best defender away from Joel Amartey is making his game go even better. Logan McDonald's starting to build into his year as well. If Charlie Curnow can take that best key forward, and something that I did like against Hawthorn a couple of weeks ago, I was pretty disappointed with his efforts trying to bring the ball to ground. He wasn't doing enough. The last few weeks, he's definitely doing that. He's bringing the ball to ground and then helping the likes of Roses, who has been a brilliant recruit so far. Probably can get a couple of goals more, but he definitely brings something different to Tom Papley. And Tom Papley's really building into his year. We saw how good he was in Gather Round, and he's really building. So I think that if Charlie Curnow can play his role, yes, it's probably not what they brought him in for, but if the Swans win the premiership off of it, no one's going to care.
No, and yeah, exactly. You might be paying him a bit more than most other forwards in that team, but if it ends up with the result that you guys have been waiting 13, 14 years for, I don't think it's going to fucking matter.
Yeah.
To any Swans supporter, it's not going to fucking matter.
Yeah, exactly. After that, we got to the Gold Coast and the Bombers, and the Bombers, Someone needs to check to see if they're, the drug saga, if Stephen Danks just snuck in and quickly helped them out. Because the last few weeks, what's happened? They've all of a sudden just realised, oh, hang on, maybe we should make an effort. They won against Melbourne and gather round, and now they took Gold Coast all the way to the end.
And you think if they didn't have the Raul and Petrarca, they probably lose that game. To be honest, if those two don't play, they lose. I reckon Gold Coast. The Bombers, the last 2.5 weeks, about half time of the Bulldog game 3 weeks ago, they flipped a switch and they're playing more of a possession type of game instead of a fast footy, which is maybe a bit different to most teams, but it can work. And the players like Roberts are thriving at the moment in that team.
Merritt's playing well. Parrish has improved in the last couple of weeks, and the Bombers are starting to improve a bit more, and they go into Anzac Day. You look at their scoring prowess as well. They've kicked 100 over the past 2 weeks. Collingwood have not kicked 100 points. They haven't kicked 90 points for the entire season. So if they can get some score on the board, Collingwood may struggle to actually catch up to it.
And the good thing is that Nate Caddy only had 1 goal in that game, I think, and Collins dominated him. But they still put 100 on the board. And the shitty thing was, I think, Ridley's out this week, which doesn't help. But, if one player's your team, you're not going to compete ever.
Considering he hasn't been, he's struggled to stay on the park since his basically debut, or for at least the last few years, then they need to find someone who can take that role. Andy McGrath's the new captain now. He needs to start standing up in defence. Yeah, but other than that, it was a good result, a good effort from the Bombers, but the Gold Coast got the win that they needed. They get back on the winners list after a couple of poor results, and now they can set their sights against Hawthorn this week, which is going to be a big game for them, with the Hawks having Sicily and Dylan Moore both out. Yeah, they've both accepted their bans, so they'll be out. It's not a great trip down to Tassie for both teams, but, it's a big test for the Suns. They need to show up this week. They didn't really show up against the Swans. Yeah, they struggled to win away from home against contenders. Yeah. And Melbourne, who have really shown some improvement, but we'll get to them a bit later. But overall, the Gold Coast need to probably really show up this week against Hawthorn. Yeah, and they've got them a good time. Like I said, I don't think Charles back. Gunston may be, but, and the other 2 players have just got suspended. There's a chance there for him. Won't be back. Charles. Yeah, so there's a chance there for him. Yeah, they're probably having a really good time. And Noah Anderson, they say, should be back from his appendix. So, Raul, Petrarca, This is what they wanted. This is what they want. Yeah. First time we get to see the 3-headed midfield. We'll see how they go. Speaking of Hawthorn, though, they played Port Adelaide, and Port Adelaide put up a really good result. And honestly, if they took a lot of their chances, could have very well have won that game. It just, you can't blame it on Georgiades to miss that shot. Like, everyone before the shot was like, oh, he never misses. Like, yeah, they mozzed him. But, Mark Howard was like, please. He is a Hawthorn supporter at the end of the day. But I love the performance from Port Adelaide, especially after the first quarter when we looked, like, to be honest, I was saying to myself, like, we don't even look like we showed up today. But, Josh Lai was thrown so far in the deep end, it was not funny. Against Nick Watson, he was just like the best thing that Josh Carr did was just say, you've had your moment, we'll move you to somewhere where else we'll put Lockie Jones on him. Like, it was the better matchup, even though he kicked 5 in the end, Watson, it wasn't the matchup. But, Paul's resilience to come back. Butters, Horn-Francis look back. He looks back in the best form of his career. Horn-Francis at the moment. Well, he's had to stand up with Rosie being out. He's had to when he's to play that number one. He kind of needs to take that role now of look, we all pretty much know now that Butters is going to go. At the very least, we kind of expect it. So I think Josh Carr's probably seen that and is like, okay, well, we're going to give you as much midfield time, Jace, as we can, and see how you go. Yeah, and he's done pretty well the past couple of weeks. Yeah, he has, and the forward line seems to be working well. At the moment, so. What happens when you take out Lukosius? And it's the best thing for him was to get him injured. But Whitlock's taking some good contested marks as well, which is he'll be a player. He'll be a nice player. Georgiades coming into there. It's a nice mix. You're getting other players like that. The one thing for Port Adelaide is that they need to lock down what Bergman's role is.
I hardly knew he was there again this week. The last 2 weeks, I've hardly noticed him.
Yeah.
And,
I still don't understand why Port Adelaide have that guy who can be that tagger who they've shown. And I really found it interesting the last couple of weeks when they haven't really done it. Like, I know he had that game against Isaac Heaney last year where he got taken to the cleaners, and because he was like, oh, I'm a bit sick, you take it easy on me. And he was like, fuck you, bro, and just fucking absolutely just trashed him. But before that point, he was one of the better taggers in the game for a month.
I think, they're looking at, Willem Drew's done it the whole career, well, done it most of the time at Port Adelaide. But with these new sort of midfielders coming in, the more athletic, more polished players, not the grunt players, a Bergman might be that role to play, or just to put him in the midfield, just to give him some more freedom in a way.
Port Adelaide, I don't think anyone would say that they've got a very deep midfield.
No.
So, you might as well chuck him through there.
Yeah.
I think there's no harm in doing it. And if they're not going to do that, then surely that he could have been one of the matchups for Nick Watson. Surely he could have been one of them.
Yeah, but, I'm not taking anything away from Hawthorn. They were amazing, really. They were a team, like, Port Adelaide had to basically avoiding Battle and Barras all night and going from side to side before they go forward. Like,
I think Port Adelaide played it very well.
Yeah.
Just, Hawthorn, I think, even though their midfield probably will get questioned throughout the year, and it will be interesting to see how they go against some of the better sides who have that really big midfield core. Yes, the Dogs they had the week before in Gather Round, but if they play a team like if they play that team with Tim English and they're playing that at Marvel Stadium, we'll see how they really go.
Yeah.
But they've already beaten a couple of good teams already, like the Cats at the MCG, Sydney as well. They've beaten a couple of really big teams already, so you can't question them. They're definitely going to be up there this year. After that, though, we got to the Crows up against St Kilda, and it was a harrowing night for Jordan Dawson, who really took a lot of courage for him to get to the game itself. Obviously, he didn't play, and I doubt he'll play for a couple of weeks.
People are saying, I think he'll come back. He won't play this week against Brisbane. I'd be surprised with that being at the Gabba. I think the week after it's the showdown, which is round 8. It's the showdown. So I think it's a home game. I think he'll play it, maybe depending on circumstances. But it was emotional night for.
Yeah,
all involved.
Everyone stood up. Every single crowd member clapped at the 12-minute mark for Jordan Dawson's brother, who passed away. And not that it's not being made public how his brother passed, but it's assumed what had happened, and it's just another passing, in the AFL world that's just to do with mental health. And we talk about Elijah Hollins later, but it seems like the AFL don't really give a shit about it to some extent. Like, they don't really do a lot about it, and. It's not always the AFL's fault. It's not the AFL, obviously, in this situation, but they do have a very big platform, and you would think that they could definitely influence a lot of people,
Yeah.
You think it'd be something that it'd be pretty simple for them to, talk about, get things talked about, and, other than maybe one game a year with the Danny Frawley game, you think there could be something a bit more done.
Yeah, and you know that all the AFL players will get behind it as well.
Every person around the country would, and I think it just... for a lot of AFL fans, a lot of them are not maybe like I would say 60 or 70% would definitely be male, and there'd be a lot of people in that older generation to mid 30 to 70 people who probably find it a bit difficult to talk about their feelings and shit. You'd think that would be a good message from them to do something. I think it would be a pretty simple thing for them to do. But overall, at the game itself, the Crows. They looked a lot of times like the Saints were just going to run over them. And after a pretty tough week for them, they were able to find a way to win.
It was all about momentum in that game. Five of the first 6 goals went to St Kilda, then 9 piled on by the Crows, then 4 more from St Kilda. It was just... Then in the last quarter, it was about who could take their chances. And, Taylor Walker turned back the clock, but Wilkie started well. Then that matchup turned on its head with Walker kicking 5. It was... It was a very interesting game. Wasn't very contested, and it was free flowing. So
100 as well. Another two scores over 100. So
Yeah.
a high scoring encounter, especially for St Kilda. You don't really expect them to have a really high scoring game.
yeah, but the thing is, when it is high scoring, they don't seem to be on the right end of it.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what which is probably what Ross Lyon is probably wanting to change on their perspective, is that they can be high scoring, but they want to get the 4 points at the end of the day. They don't want to be high scoring and kick 100 points and lose to a team that kicks 110.
Yeah.
So it's still adjusting to that one, but great game though.
Yeah. After that, we got to North Melbourne and the Tigers, and the Tigers just too many injuries. Their forward line has nothing.
Oh, their forward line's bloody VFL. It's standard really or lower. It's there's nothing there.
Yeah. And North Melbourne, I mean, there's not really much to say from this game. North Melbourne trashed them. The Tigers missed a lot of opportunities, so they could have been a lot closer, but the Roos really, they got a good win, and they've got a couple of wins against teams that they are expected that they've got around them that they should be beating. They've got a big game this week against the Giants in Canberra. So away from home against a team that should be around them. I think that it's probably just above them, the Giants, though. Especially at the start of the year, people expecting them to be around probably higher wild card spot, if not in the top 6. This is a team that they need to be, going into this game expecting to win, because they've got a lot of injuries. The Giants, this is the best time they can beat them. North Melbourne are pretty much full strength. That they should be going into this game going to win.
Yeah. Cadman might be back. Same with Hogan.
I expect both of them to be back.
Yeah, that shouldn't change their mindset. Yes, they're full. Yes, they're good, capable forwards. But this is a team that needs to show something. And the people, I was listening to the game on Sunday. They were saying, if anyone said that North Melbourne should be 4-2, they would be kidding themselves. That's exactly what they should have been. It may be even better than that.
They should be 5-1.
They should be, they should be 5-1. People that saying that 4-2, they'd take that. No, that's what they should have absolutely got. 100% should have got to. That should have been bare minimum. So this is their biggest test. Biggest test so far. They need to show that they've turned a corner. They need to be able to get people outside of North Melbourne fans to be like, you can trust us this year. This is the team that may not win every game, but needs to show that we've got some on the horizon. We're getting there.
What? I mean, if they get, let's say they have 4 wins at this point, 4-2, we're all excited about them. What if they end the season with 7 wins? We're just like, they got 4. And they get another 3. It's like, who cares? They've done nothing. They've really not shown much improvement. They've shown a little bit, but not a lot. So, I mean, if they should be at this point thinking, from here, we've got a really good launch pad to at least get into double figures for wins this year. Yeah. And this would be a good chance to get another one on the board. And who knows? If they can get a bit of momentum this season, maybe they can be fighting for a wild card spot at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Then we got to the game of the round and probably the biggest upset of the weekend. The Demons up against the Lions. The D's just doing these things, really. They lose to Essendon last week at Gather Round. Everyone's like, oh, this is the Melbourne of old. We've been fooled. And now they go against the reigning premiers, the MCG, and they win.
Yeah, it's... Who are they, really? You don't know which Melbourne's showing up this week.
Yes.
It's funny, but, you're beating the back-to-back premiers. You're showing something there.
And they've made the MCG a bit of a fortress. Haven't lost a game there this year.
Yeah, so,
they go against the MCG against the Tigers this week. I mean, if they did get that win against Essendon, which they really should have, there'd be a team right now that you'd be thinking, well, I mean, maybe they've just fooled us all. The problem is now, with that game against Essendon, you're like, I don't know if I can trust them. But I would have really been like, I trust this team if they beat Essendon a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's you just think, someone as a vocal point in Myercheck coming in, you've got Bailey Fritz, you've got Van Rooyen.
It's helped Van Rooyen
it's helping these, let's be honest, they're probably second, third tools, both of them. Myercheck's probably, but having 3 of the same, similar build, it's working. And, they're very athletic and they can take good contested marks. And
they always compete in the air.
Yeah, and, having a Latrell Pickett on the ground, a Cade Chandler, or a Cosy Pickett, they've got the forward line. They've got that might be one of the most exciting forward lines in the game.
Yeah.
And you've got the best ruckman in the game, tabbing it down to all these different type of
he'd make any midfield group look fucking.
They look good. Yeah, with a Steele, Langford coming.
Game of his career.
Yeah, Langford coming through, and you've got Cosy Pigger playing wherever he really wants to. They've got the team.
Yeah,
they've got the stability of a backline with Jake Lever still there. It's not the worst team in the game.
I think a lot of people probably looked at their list last year and then looked into this year and were like, it's a very young team. I think that's probably what we've seen right now, that they're a very young team. So we can't really expect them to be consistent every single week. But they've got a lot of puzzle pieces there that can build towards another finals push. Maybe this year. But I think in the next couple of years, they're going to be a team that really turned like a full 180 in the space of 24 months.
You just got to probably hope that Gawn stays another 3 years, maybe, just to help help that development. But you look at it, and it's not like I'm comparing it to a Richmond, but you're looking at both of them, and you're looking like Richmond have all the injuries, and they've got no experience in that team. You're looking at Melbourne. They've got the experience still there. They don't have a lot of injuries to their core players. Yes, I think Melcham's out, and they lost a bit of experience. But the experience that they've got is still there. They're still playing. They're still at their peak.
I think with the Tigers, I think they did a very similar thing, Melbourne, of like moving on their experienced players like Petrarca and Oliver. They did a very good thing of quickly gutting a couple of players out to then rebuild quickly, which the Tigers did. And unfortunately, like in last year, I think a lot of the start of the year, they had a pretty full list, which got them through and got them a good couple of wins. And I think if the Tigers had a better list, like a better availability right now, they'd be in a lot better position. Melbourne, like you said, are in a pretty good spot injury-wise.
Yeah.
So they've had probably their best team in most weeks. Probably something that Melbourne have over the Tigers, though, is they have, the Pickett factor, the Gawn factor, some real big match winners. The Tigers are lacking that right now.
Yeah, exactly. And, you've got even so it's very exciting to be a Melbourne supporter. And, I know it might seem pretty shitty as a Victorian, Victorian-based team. They had 40,000 at the game this week. You don't get... they've always been bagged for having only like 10, 15,000 at an MCG game. They had 40,000 there on the weekend. And, they got against they're
bringing their fans back.
Yeah, the fans are getting there. And, they beat the back-to-back premiers. They beat the Gold Coast 2 weeks ago on the MCG on a Sunday.
As long as they have, 20 more games of the MCG, maybe they'll get up to 50,000.
Yeah, complain to the AFL like Collingwood do and get some more games at the MCG every week.
Exactly. Oh, guys, we have to travel down to Marvel. Oh, my God. Well, that could hurt. Scotty Pendlebury doesn't like that, guys. And Brisbane, do we really... I think we'll be fine. What do you question them?
It's not like you have to question them, but it's like... When do you start? When do you start questioning it? Because, last year, I think, when do you start concerned about Brisbane?
When they get eliminated, in my eyes. When they get
you probably...
I'm not questioning them one bit. They've had not the best record against Melbourne either. They've been falling against them hard. I did call it in the tips that it was kind of a danger game for them. Honestly, with Brisbane, I have no question marks. I think they'll be right.
Yeah.
I understand that some people will be like, oh, get on their backs. What are they doing? There's probably a couple of questionable pieces of footage of a couple of Brisbane players, but Dan Zorko was out as well. He's been a pivotal player down in that back 50 for the last 18 months for the Lions. Him being out's probably bigger than most people are saying. But I think Brisbane will be fine. Melbourne, it's a lot more about Melbourne this game and how well they did. And if they can continue to win, if they can make the MCG a fortress, they will make a wildcard spot.
Yeah.
I think they probably will. And in the final game of the Derby, Freo won. They did what they had to do.
Yeah, people thinking that, it's a Derby, you never know. That was done within the first quarter and a half.
Yeah,
that was.
Jack Waterman played quite well, but
he needs to find a way to kick straight.
Yeah,
I think he's had the most shots out of any big forward this year, and he's missed more than but he's missed I think he's missed the most out of anybody.
He'd be up there. I think
he's got the most behinds.
Yeah,
out of the amount of shots that he's had. When you're playing in a bad team, you need to find a way to kick goals. And North Melbourne are actually the prime example of this, because even the last few years, they've had a Larky who kicks straight. Waterman needs to find the way to do that. And I think actually this year, North Melbourne are the most accurate team. and I think West Coast are one of the lowest they could be. But a Waterman needs to find a way to kick goals because being one of the more experienced players in that forward line, it's going to suck your confidence out very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Shanahan's shown how good he's been already. Like 4 goals and gathered around a couple of weeks ago, kicked them, I think 4 goals straight. So I definitely think he's the guy to build around, and I think the Eagles definitely shown a lot more improvement this year. Already shown with evidence of 2 wins. And I think they will probably get a couple more as they go on. And they got St Kilda this week at Marvel Stadium, so they did beat St Kilda in WA last year. Marvel Stadium, I don't know. I think it kind of suits the Eagles a little bit more.
Well, I think it's the first game for St Kilda in Marvel this year.
Oh God, I think they have 20 for the rest of the. I think they have 15 for the rest of the year.
I think I've heard this multiple times. That after round 11 against Sydney in the SCG, every other game's in Victoria.
Yeah.
For St Kilda, so they'll get their run.
Yeah, exactly. But look, let's move on from the recap to round 6. Very good round, probably the best of the season, I'd say at the moment. Let's talk about Elijah Hollins. So, obviously, the biggest talking point of the round was way back on Thursday night with Hollins, of course. Most people thought that he had 0 touches. I think Champion Data awarded him 1 touch in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Played 60% game time, and there was a lot of footage around the ground from spectators taking footage of him with twitching and making all kinds of different mannerisms that just didn't look right. He eventually got dragged in the fourth quarter and didn't play for the rest of the game. Looked pretty distraught. Looked like he was all out of sorts. David King on the call as well made some sort of mention of he looks very stressed at the moment on the ground and didn't look like a footballer. Just didn't look good at all. Then it came out on Friday night that Elijah Hollins from Sam Edward, that Elijah Hollins was a victim of a mental health episode and not under the influence of drugs during his erratic performance against Collingwood last night. Carlton has undertaken a thorough review of Hollins' circumstances, but after investigating are convinced his issues are not substance related. So that's what came out straight after, and then a lot of reports started flying around. Caroline Wilson said that Collingwood players said that he had mentioned drinking. This is Caroline Wilson, so I take this source with a kilo of salt. The amount of times she's made false accusations in the past. Well,
it happened with that report, and I haven't heard anything else since, really, besides a few reporters saying it to Graham Wright and stuff. But yeah, to throw that out with like that, it's hard to.
In this situation, you've got to be very careful about what you say.
I think that's what we've been seeing over the course of last couple of days is that you have to be absolutely sure about what we're saying here.
Yeah,
I think that's very clear that it's this weekend that you have to be absolutely clear what we're saying.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time it's just going to be misconstrued and all sort of stuff. Now the Blues obviously had a look into it, and they said that there was they're still investigating the whole situation, but now the AFL have came out and said that they want to see the investigation after it's done, and then give their findings. And then Mitch Cleary made it known last night that the Blues have confirmed that Elijah Hollins will not play this week against the Dockers. So at the moment, that's kind of where we're sitting. A lot of unknowns at the moment. The Blues, seems like a lot of the talk right now is kind of indicating that they knew there was something wrong, but seemingly just did nothing about it until the final quarter.
Yeah, it's very much about, no one really knows what's happened, but everyone on the field seeing it, and now Carlton is saying that they saw snippets of it, they noticed a bit of it, and it took them to the last quarter to do anything about it. Yeah, Carlton have been through the news for pretty much all year. It's not what they needed.
Well, I mean, I think with a lot of people speculating he's taken drugs, he's off his head, he's done something wrong. It's kind of on Elijah. It's kind of his fault that sort of stuff is being speculated because of what he's done in the past. That's, I think, unfortunate, but it's what people are going to say. People are going to speculate that when you've taken drugs and been caught taking drugs in the past. Unfortunately, that's just going to be the case. However, with Carlton, what a blunder from them. We've seen all throughout the year how poor they have been on the field, and then now they've let this whether it have just been slipped through the cracks or whatever it may be, surely someone has to be like, hey, Elijah's not right here. Surely someone in the box, surely someone in the club has to have known that he was not right for this game. Because, yes, there may have been a couple of idiots, saying, like, if he was laid out, saying, oh, he's been caught taking drugs, he's failed his drug test or whatever. But not to the extent of what's happened now.
No, with him playing, the backlash is, deserved from Carlton, to be honest. Like, deserved the backlash that they're getting, because they should have seen something before.
They should have taken him off the ground 10 minutes into the first quarter.
Yeah.
We saw, some of the footage that's been coming out was pre-game of him having a kick to goal, like in the pre-game. He kicked it slid off the left side of his boot, and didn't even make the distance.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that can be like a mistake, but if that, along with other sort of, other sort of footage that we've seen from the game now, he was not right.
No.
So how has he played this game? Like, I'd be very interested to see, like, his brother, Ollie Collins, if he would have seen anything from this. Because you would have thought that if he saw anything, he would have quickly mentioned it. I mean, obviously, he is focusing on his own game as well, and he had a pretty decent performance against Collingwood. But it just feels like something's gone really awry here. That, like, Carlton just didn't have anyone they could call for in this situation to bring him in. Surely someone was ready to go.
Yeah.
Just chuck someone in, anyone. Like, I think the Swans made a really late change a couple of weeks ago with Harry Cunningham. The whole first quarter he sat on the bench warming up. That would have been a better situation than Elijah Hollands playing that game. And for him to play 60% of the game...
And he played, I think he only played like 9% of the last quarter. So he's played most of the first three quarters. I think he played it was like 85, 80, 65 in the third quarter, and then he just didn't play anything in the last quarter. It's like, any coach that sees it from the box is seeing the whole field. Do not notice that.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Voss, not to give him much of an excuse, but he was on the ground. He was on. Yeah. He was at the ground level.
He coaches from the boundary line.
But the line coaches are all in the box, and they're all supposed to, keep an eye on their respective players in each line to, get messages down to the coach saying, hey, this player is blah, 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 whatever it may be, they're doing this, they're doing that. Like, surely someone, with the amount of technology and amount of statistics that are being recorded live every single moment of the game, surely someone's seen down at the bottom and said, oh shit, Elijah Hollands has been on the ground for 70% of the game right now and has had no touches, or he's been throughout this first half, he's not touched the football. Let's have a talk to him at halftime, say what's going on.
Or maybe look at the back of the footage and see what positions on the field he's been in.
Yeah.
And see if that's
they all have trackers in the back of their Guernsey as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like...
I mean, you do have to put... look, not that you want to put much blame onto Elijah Hollands here, because, having a mental health episode, I mean, look, I'm going to go with what the reports are saying. I'm not going to read into the speculation and just say he was high or whatever it is. I'm going to go with that. If he was in that situation, he should have really spoke up and said to someone, look, I'm not right, and to have pulled himself out of the game. I'm assuming that's not the case, because I find it incredibly hard to believe that Carlton said, nah, fuck yeah, get on the field. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that, and I'll just say, I put a little bit of blame into Elijah for not pulling himself up and just saying, look, I can't go on. I can't go on tonight. Like, surely that's happened in footy before. So I'm sure that's the case. And I don't expect that the episode started when this first siren went, because it didn't, because we saw him pre-game with a couple of issues. So I think that he's got to take some of the blame, but I think the majority of the blame has to go to the club here. And I mean, maybe a little bit of the AFL. I mean, they get a footage of a lot of this stuff as well. Maybe they should have pulled them up, and we see a lot of injuries get pulled up from umpires and stuff. So why, we have to stop the whole game when someone has a toe injury now. So surely one umpire has seen this issue and just said, hey, hang on, what's going on with him? But it just was a whole breakdown of issues between the club, the player itself, and I think the majority of the blame goes to the Blues.
Yeah.
I think that's just atrocious what's happened. And I mean, what do you think the punishment will be? Because I mean, there has to be something. I mean, I think Fox Footy, they talked about it on the first crack. Jay Clark brought up a couple of interesting scenarios regarding Ken Hinkley got fined $20,000 for making a gesture towards Jack Ginnivan. We saw Bailey Smith get a fine for flipping someone the bird. We've seen Zach Butters most recently with the umpires get a fine. Now obviously he's appealing that, but still, we look at all these scenarios regarding fines and that. with a team taking a duty of care, not taking the duty of care into a reasonable amount, not taking it into account here. What do they get? I feel like it's more of an issue that a player has been left on the field with going through something really severe here. In front of kids, in front of families, in front of 90,000 people. What's the punishment?
That's the $1 million question, to be honest. That's going to be the fascinating thing out of this is that, what are we going to do with the findings that we find out of this whole case, out of all of it? I've got no idea where we go.
Do they give them just a big fine? The problem is, do they almost go to the point of docking them points? I know they've got a lot, but do you almost go to the point of like making a stand here and just saying, hey, you're losing your points and you're not do they really make a really big point of saying we're going to dock your points and we're going to you do not get your first round pick in the draft or where you're allocated first pick in the draft? Is that where you go? Is that too harsh? I don't know. There's a player who's on the ground going through a huge issue. The club has just said, "No, he's all right," for 90 minutes of that game, and he just said done nothing about it.
He's gonna. Yeah, this is. I've got no idea what is gonna happen here. I really don't. It could go 100 different ways.
And do they also go the route of is that the final game that Elijah Hollands plays? Does he never play again? Or do they do what the Australian cricket team did and use him as a scapegoat like they did with Cam Bancroft? Just don't pick him again and delist him. Because if it was saying he's a mental health episode, we already know the issues, and Carlton knew that when they already picked him up.
Yeah.
So is that what they're going to do? They're just going to say, fuck him. He just put our club through all this. Just use him as a scapegoat, delist him, and that's it. It'd be very interesting to see what comes out of this in the next week or two. I think the Blues are hoping that it's done by this week, like the investigation, and they can hand it to the AFL, and I'm assuming they'll hand down some sort of punishment. But it will be very interesting to see what Carlton have to deal with here, because this is just unprecedented. Nothing like this has happened in the game before.
No, so yeah.
If I had to put it down right, I think the AFL will go down hard on this. I think we've seen with big issues, this probably isn't as big as the drug scandal with the Bombers, obviously, but we saw how the AFL go when they want to try and make a statement. So I think it will be a pretty big punishment. I think docking points, I doubt it, but they've done it before, so I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens again. But with that being said, guys, let's get to the fan favourite segment of the episode, of course, Rate It or Hate It. Andrew Dillon's not returning my phone calls this week, but he did, no phone calls, but he did message me on Instagram saying, look, as long as you keep on going with Rate It or Hate It, I'll keep listening we'll respond to your messages. So he's still pretty okay with the segment, but he's kind of losing interest in talking to me, which, look, I think that's a bit rude of him, to be honest. I don't really know if he's got anything else more important on his hands. I can't really think of anything, but at least he's still, responding to my messages. I think that's pretty fair of him. Anyway, first question: Rate it or hate it. The Saints would regret spending $1.7 million on Tom DeConing.
Oh, you've been listening to my messages all week, so you know my answer to this. I fucking love this. They fucking regret it 110,000%. He had 8 disposals on the weekend. I don't care if he got a slight injury to his hip. Take him off then. Don't keep bringing him back on. He was not giving you anything. The man that every single person on the media, every Joe Blow that watches AFL knows that you already had the ruckman on your bloody list. And all he had to do was show it in one game against the Crows. And everyone can deny this, but I know 100% St Kilda win that game if Rowan Marshall plays the whole game in the ruck. TDK is useless. As a ruckman, he's not worth 1.7 million. He's not even worth half that, the way he's playing at the moment.
Yeah.
Rowan Marshall is.
Yeah. Rowan Marshall goes into the ruck for the first time this year as the number one ruck and has the best game of any ruckman at St Kilda for the year.
Yes, and, they're going to play him forward. TDK, before the game, had 0 goal 3. Same with Marshall. He had 2 shots at goal, TDK, both from 25, 30 metres out. Both of them he stabbed at, and the one he got was just straight through. I don't care what anybody says, I'm probably saying what everybody else is saying besides St Kilda, because the St Kilda don't want to look like the biggest laughing stock in the game, but they are. It was ridiculous. You can give Naz $2 million. That's fine. He's actually showing something. I would have spent half of that on Lee Kalia, chucking him back from the Giants.
Yeah, I think the problem is right now their biggest issue is probably. They're conceding a lot of points as well when they're attacking very much.
I would have asked the question from the Gold Coast and said Ben King 1.7 and got him back home with his brother, with Max King. And I reckon that would have been a better investment than investing in TDK.
I agree. I think that a lot of St Kilda fans right now would be thinking, oh, God, what the fuck have we done? And it may be a little bit of recency bias, but what has he shown in the first... you're spending $1.7 million. He's one of the highest paid players in the game. He's getting paid pretty much better than any other... He's getting paid better than any other ruckman in the game right now. Obviously, players that are a bit older, like Max Scorn, Brody Grundy, Ron Marshall, they're not going to get paid that much money anymore. But I would much rather have paid for 3 years at 1.7 for Max Gorn than or the amount of money that Tom Tony's getting right now. He's not doing anything, and you don't pay a player $1.7 million to play as a number one ruck and only win maybe one ruck battle so far this year.
Yeah, and what you're looking at we all know the AFL is built on potential. You're getting money for being on potential. What potential is 1.7 million for a ruckman?
Yeah,
Gorn's the best ruckman in the game we may have ever seen. He definitely is in this generation. He's not getting paid 1.7 million, but he's playing like he's played some games even this year that are that.
Yeah,
but I just all I look at is the guy he played against on the weekend in Lockie McAndrew. What salary he's on? What do you think he's on? He's on rookie base rate.
I think Lockie McAndrew's had more.
He's had more impactful games this year than TDK has, and he's getting paid pennies compared to TDK. I just
get rolled up about this.
if you look at every 18 clubs and their ruckman, Bailey Williams has played 2 games for the Eagles and he's played better than TDK has in 6 games for St Kilda.
Mitch Edwards, who's playing for the Cats, he's probably on.
He's showed something.
Yeah, at least he's young.
Oscar Steen's played better. He played a better game on the weekend. Probably the best game he's played in his 6-game career. Then TDK has played 6 games this year.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It's absolutely laughable. It's absolutely laughable. I'd actually like to hear from St Kilda fans of how they actually feel about this, because it's absolutely laughable.
I feel like there's been a lot more talk regarding Charlie Kerner at the Swans than TDK at the moment.
It's
amazing. Like we haven't heard much about it.
I still can't believe, Kane Corns is all up about Kerner at the moment, and everyone's saying, I was like, when this happened, it's like, TDK, St Kilda are going to get some backlash, they're going to get some criticism. I still haven't seen any of it really. Not of the criticism. No. Enough. And I still believe it's still the same fact is that when Ross Lyon went into the media and then he came out of the media, they're not afraid to talk about St Kilda, but it's been irrelevant, and they still are, because they're 1-4.
Yeah, they're just a team that they're still one, but they're just not really a team that anyone talks about. I guess it doesn't catch their headlines enough, I guess. Anyway, next question, rate it or hate it. The Demons will make a wild card spot this year.
Oh. Nah, I'm going to rate it.
Okay.
I'm going to rate it.
You think they're going to make top 10?
I think Cozzy Pickett and Gorn could get them there. Yeah, I reckon they could. And, even how I was talking about their forward line, I think it works very well, their forward line. It's a bunch of, let's be honest, they're all a bunch of role players. There's not one, Cozzy Pickett, I think is a mid forward, then a forward mid. They're all X factors, they're all role players. They all play their role. They all play their role. And to be honest, it seems like that's the type of game style that Stephen King wants to play. He doesn't want he doesn't want the fucking $1 million player. If he's got, he doesn't need the $1 million player. If you guys play your role, that's what he wants, and that's what they're doing. And they're getting a few youth players in. They're playing some youth. They're playing some fun footy. Why wouldn't you?
The footy of the Demons is really exciting at the moment.
Yeah, they're putting 100 points on the board. Collingwood can't do that. Collingwood haven't shown it yet.
Yeah.
Yet they don't. It's not like I'm saying that they don't care about defense, but they want to play such an offensive game. Defense is not. They want to put 120 on the board. You beat us.
Yeah.
Basically, that's their gameplay, and they're playing it well at the moment. And yeah, they may not get it, but in 6 weeks of
It'll be an exciting watch to see if they get it.
I'd rather watch them play than some.
Well, I'd rather watch them play than Collingwood at the moment.
Yeah, at least they're playing some exciting footy, and you want to watch Cosy Pickett. You want to watch a Gawn. You want to watch that team play.
I think they very well could make a real charge for it this year. They've got a young team. I think as well with their forward line, like you think back to 2017 with the Tigers, and I know it's a bit different sort of team. Like the Tigers had the Mosquito fleet, a lot of small forwards, and then Jack Rewald is the pillar. And I think, but all of them, maybe even Jack Rewald at the time, wasn't like before that point. He was like the one. He was the only one they went to, and he won Coleman medals out of it. He kind of moved into basically Damien Hardwick kind of pointed out if you want to win a premiership, you're gonna have to play your role. You can't just be the player that kicks 80 goals. You have to kick 50 for us and be that pinnacle, that one who always brings the ball to the ground.
Yeah.
And even though the Demons have a couple of more taller forwards and stuff, they're all playing their role. And I think that's something that is, that I don't think they're going to win. They're not going to win the premiership this year. They're not going to win it probably in the next 3. But they very well could build a forward line around those sort of role players.
Yeah.
And build around that, and then eventually maybe they will be able to go and get it. Because, the attacking game, the game's moving into a more fast-paced attacking football, and the way that Stephen King has quickly turned this team around, I think it will take some time. They're going to have those games like against Essendon.
Yeah.
But if they can win those games against the big, if they can take games to the MCG, make it a fortress which they've shown, and then get some wins on the board. If they can, you're not going to need more than 12 wins to make a wildcard spot. They've already got 4, so if they can get 8. They get 8 more for the rest of the year. I think they're definitely a shot. I'd say that.
Yeah,
10th spot doesn't seem like it's too hard to get. You think about it now. You think 10th spot, right? You think the Swans made it there last year, and everyone says they had a terrible year. But 10th spot, you have a terrible year, you make 10th now. Doesn't look too bad. So I think there's definitely a chance.
The probably the best thing for him, for Stephen King, was that Cosy Pickett's on such a big contract, and he's decided, if he's on the biggest contract, he's the best X factor player in the game. Make your whole game style around that. Put him in the midfield and just let him roam. He's actually showing this year he can go back and forth. He's going back and giving there's some tackles that he's giving pressure in the back 50. He's never shown that sort of stuff, but he is this year. He knows that it's his game. He knows that his team, basically, he's going to show it. And Gawn and all that around him, Gawn's still the best ruckman in the game, and having that Rolls Royce of Cosy Pickett, he's just showing
the Rolls Royce.
Yeah,
you in the Rolls Royce title. That's only given to the best of the best.
Yeah.
He's been put up there. You think of the Bontempellis, the Isaac Heaney's, Scotty Pendlebury's. You're given the Cosy Pickett Rolls Royce status.
They're putting, he's playing the role that he can go anywhere.
Yeah,
and you're having your best ruckman in the game, maybe ever. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
why wouldn't you
want his throat every day? If you knock it down to his throat, he gets out pretty sticky, pretty tough situation.
The amount of turns and stuff like that, and you're like, how the hell did he get out of that contest? And he kicks it forward and he hits the target, and you're like, no one else in the game could do that. No one.
Not to bring it back to TDK again, you're more angry, but you're paying Cosy a little. I think he's probably on less than TDK. Yes, they're different players, but Cosy Pickett as well is showing okay, you're going to pay me that much? All right, I'll be your number 1. I'll be your guy. TDK is you're going to pay me that much? Cool. I'm set for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I think that Melbourne definitely could make a run this year. Problem is if they do get a couple of injuries.
That's
I
the
think
thing.
they're gonna be
That's
tough.
you never know what happens if a Gawn goes down or a Cozzy Pickett goes down. You know, both of them have been very non-injury prone.
Yeah,
So
I mean, when's the last? I mean, I think Max Gawn had an injury in the preseason. He seems to get him in the preseason, and then
everyone's like, oh no, this is it. This is when he goes down. Then he just comes out round 1, round 2, and he's like, he's all Australian again.
Yeah, he's Australian again. What's he at 7 now? I think he could get.
I think he's 8 and 9. No one's ever got 9. Don't quote me on that.
He'd be up there. He'd be up there though.
Yeah.
I mean, this year, I mean, has he been the best ruckman this year? He'd be close. I mean, Brodie Grundy's been really good so far.
Bit of bias in that.
I think he's been fucking good.
But
who's been better?
you probably say them too.
Yeah.
To be honest, you know.
Oh, that's biased.
Maybe.
Lockie McAndrew's been pretty good.
Yeah,
he has been alright.
He's been alright, but he's not. Nah. But you know them two.
Luke Jackson.
Even Jackson's been okay, but you know I still think he'd thrive better with no other ruckman around him.
Yeah.
For Freo, but yeah.
Anyway, you're saying Cozzy Pickett's top 5 player in the game right now?
Yeah.
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 All right, quickly. Top 5. I go Dacos, Heaney, Bontempelli, Butters. No, actually, no, Cozzy, then Butters. I think Cozzy does more on the scoreboard. I think there's probably a couple of them missing out there, but yeah, probably be my top 5.
Yeah, probably the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nasai is close, but he's not there yet. He hasn't shown it over time. I think this year, by the end of the year, he may be in the top 5. But Cozzy Pickett's just shown it. I think that even games last year, like against the Swans, when he kicked he had like 25 and 5.
Yeah.
You know, those sort of games are what you build your whole team around.
Yeah,
those
I
sort
think
of
Max is
moments.
definitely going to get to that. I mean, he's already shown a couple of times already, but I think Cozzy's probably shown it a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you look at that and you're like, kicks 5 and 25 against the Swans, and TDK barely gets 10.
We're back to
against a rookie ruckman against the Crows. Totally worth it.
We're back to TDK, are we? We'll complain about him for another hour. So guys, make sure to join our membership, and we'll have a rant for TDK for an hour. But guys, that's all for that. That's all from Rated or Had It this week. 2 questions. I think they're pretty good. I think that's pretty good.
I think you baited me for that TDK one.
Well, I thought that he hasn't. Charlie Kerno's had enough heat, so I had to put it to someone else.
And you knew how I really felt about TDK, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I had to bring that one up. I've had enough rants on this podcast. I think it's time you had one. Anyway, let's get to the preview to round 7. A couple of big games coming up, of course, for Anzac round. So to the point of the Sydney Swans didn't release a Guernsey for this week, but quickly, Port Adelaide's Guernsey, you like it?
Yeah, isn't not so much different really. Like I really like it, but it's like, yeah.
We'll say the Crows one looks pretty good.
I actually like the Crows one. I thought that was
no. All right, let's get to the preview to round 7. Now, a couple of big games from last week, a lot of high-scoring encounters, but a couple of big matchups, of course, coming in round 7, and we're going to be taking a look at the 4 biggest. We start with the Thursday night clash between the Dogs and the Swans. Now, the Dogs have been in pretty poor form since their bye, with only 1 win, which came against the Bombers, while the Swans have been in very good form since their first bye, with 3 comprehensive wins. Now, on the Dogs' point of view, they have so many injury issues coming out of last week's game, including injuries to Liberatore, O'Donnell, Lobb, and Sam Darcy, which will all likely be out this week. And of course, they will also likely have Tim English out this week as well, with no real time frame on when he will be returning for the Dogs. Now, I will expect that the Western Bulldogs will have to look through the VFL to find some sort of reinforcements, but look like they'll be forced into a lot of forced changes this week. While the Swans, it's going to be the first game of the year at Marvel Stadium, and I think it's going to really suit their quick handball game that they've incorporated this season. It's going to be really interesting to see how it is implemented. Now, in recent times, the Dogs have actually had the wood over the Swans, winning their last 2 games between the 2 sides. But now getting to my tip in this game, and with the Dogs, a lot of injury concerns with them. Even though they do have a good record against Sydney, I'm going to go with the Swans. They look like they're in really good form at the moment with their handball game. I think it's going to really suit the Marvel ground. And overall, I think Sydney are pretty hard to pass up right now, so I'm going to go with the Swans there. Up next, we get to Saturday afternoon, Anzac Day. First game of the day will be Hawthorn up against the Gold Coast Suns. The Hawks weren't exactly at their best last week against Port Adelaide. Probably got away with it, if I'm being honest. And if the Power took their chances, the result could have looked a lot different. However, overall, the Hawks are absolutely flying right now. While on the Gold Coast Suns, they've dropped their bundle in recent weeks. They did get a win against the Bombers last week, but really they didn't play at their best, and in a shootout, they just got away with it in the end. Now, I would expect a return of Noah Anderson this week for the Suns, and with the recent return of Christian Petrarca and Humphrey last week, along with the best game of the year from Matt Rao, it does seem the Suns could return to some decent form, and it would be nice to see them knock off a contender this week. While the Hawks have a couple of concerns on the MRO front, with both Sicily and Dylan Moore offered a 1-week suspension, with both of them being caught punching Port Adelaide players behind the play last week, which the AFL do not like. So I would be very surprised if they get away with that, or even Hawthorn challenging it. So the Hawks will have to look through their VFL side for reinforcements this week. However, I think most importantly for this one is where this is being played. Down in Tassie at UTAS Stadium, Hawthorn have won their last 10 games down at the venue. So even though the Gold Coast have a pretty good record against Hawthorn in recent times with winning their last 3 encounters against Hawthorn, it's going to be very tough for the Gold Coast Suns to go down to Tassie this week and win this one. But for now, let's get to my tip for this one. And it's a pretty tough pick, and if this was being played at the Gold Coast or in Melbourne, I honestly would be really struggling to pick this one. But with this game being down in Tassie, I have to go the Hawks. They've made it a fortress down there in recent times. 10 wins in a row. I'm expecting them to go to 11 at UTAS Stadium, so picking the Hawks in a close one. After that, we get to the traditional Anzac Day clash between the Bombers and Collingwood. Now, Collingwood did win this fixture last year pretty comfortably. However, the Collingwood side that we saw last season is a shell of their former selves, struggling to kick goals, and honestly, if it wasn't for Nick Dacos's heroics in the final quarter against the Blues last week, they would have lost that game. While Essendon have really hit some good form in recent weeks, with a shock win to get their first of the season at Gather Round against Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, and last week taking it down to the wire against the Gold Coast Suns, just not being able to get over the line there. And in the last 2 weeks, Essendon have been able to kick over 100 points on both occasions, while Collingwood have actually not reached a score over 90 for the entire season. But looking at the recent record between these two sides, the Pies have won 3 of their last 5 games against Essendon, with 1 game being a draw, but we all do know that Anzac Day is a different kettle of fish. But for now, let's get to my tip for this one, and it's actually quite tough. With Essendon's return to form in the last few weeks, it's definitely made me rethink my tip for this one a few times, but with Collingwood just being a little bit of a better side on paper, and with a couple of injury concerns for the Bombers with Jordan Ridley likely out, I'm going to be picking Collingwood. I think it's a pretty safe bet. I don't really think this is going to be the upset of the week. I think the Pies will get it done. But now to the final game we're going to be taking a deep dive into, guys. It is the Lions up against the Crows on Sunday afternoon. Now, Brisbane seem to have returned back to form in recent weeks with big wins against the Saints, Pies, and North Melbourne. But last week recorded a shock loss against Melbourne has really brought them back into the pack. While the Crows have returned to their winning ways in the last few weeks, however, they have been less than convincing. Hanging on against the Saints and then grinding out a win against the Blues in their last 2 weeks really haven't looked like that team that we saw last season. Now, on the injury point of view for the Lions, they have a couple of major concerns after last week's matchup, with Reveal, Answorth, and Berry all likely to be out. While Adelaide, I think it's almost a certainty now that Dawson will be out this week as he deals with the passing of his brother. We saw the heartbreaking scenes at the Adelaide Oval last week when the whole crowd clapped at the 12-minute mark. It was really amazing to see that Jordan Dawson was at the game to begin with, but I mean, he's a true leader and he really stands up from the front. So hoping that he takes all the time that he needs, and I think the Crows, they've dealt with this brilliantly. Jordan Dawson will return when he is ready, but I don't think it'll be this week. However, before we move to the record between these two sides, the Crows' record against contenders to start this season hasn't been great at all, with losses against Geelong, the Dogs, and Fremantle, and their other 3 wins against teams that I don't really see as contenders this year. However, the record between these two sides is really interesting to read. Both teams have got 2 wins out of their last 5 encounters, and one of those being a draw. And the margin between these two sides in the last 4 games between these two sides is less than 12 points. So I'm really expecting a close one this week. Let's get to my tip. And despite a lot of injury concerns for the Lions, with the Crows' record against contenders, I think I'm going to have to pick Brisbane here. Even though they've been kind of in second gear to start this season, the Lions, I'm expecting them to get a win here. They don't really have the best record against Melbourne in the last few years. They've always found it really tough to beat them. And I think that this week they'll return to some form against Adelaide at home in front of a good crowd. I'm expecting them to be good enough in the end, the Lions. But for now, guys, let's get to our full tips for round 7. My tips are the Swans to beat the Dogs, Melbourne to beat Richmond, Hawthorn to beat the Gold Coast Suns, Collingwood to beat Essendon, Geelong to beat Port Adelaide, Fremantle to beat Carlton, St Kilda to beat the West Coast Eagles, Brisbane to beat Adelaide, and then North Melbourne to beat GWS. And my brother's tips for round 7 are the Swans to beat the Dogs, Melbourne to beat Richmond, Hawthorn to beat the Gold Coast Suns, Collingwood Collingwood to beat Essendon, Geelong to beat Port Adelaide, Fremantle to beat Carlton, St Kilda to beat the West Coast Eagles, Brisbane to beat Adelaide, and then GWS to beat North Melbourne. But guys, thank you for listening and watching this preview to round 7.
And finally, guys, let's get to our AFL fantasy recap for the week. And I thought it was going to be a really good week, and then a couple of players just disappointed me. Still got 2,080 over the round, which was ranked at 18,559. My overall rank has gone to 20,391. Now, on the positives, first of all, Lockie Ash in his first game for the team got 114. Love that. Archie Roberts with another 100-plus score, so really well done from him. Short and Josh Dacos with plus 95 scores, so that's pretty good. Nick Dacos, after that heroic performance against the Blues in the final quarter, got up to 128. Took that as the vice captaincy score, which was 256. Zach Butters was very good against the Hawks. Sam Walsh with 107 was pretty nice as well. Luke Jackson with the 103. Murdoch, I was going to say was going to be in the poor column, but then just raced up to an 86 in the final time.
I watched that game and 3/4 time, like, this is what I expected from him. And then he goes like 80 odd, and like, okay, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Willem Dersma did nice as well with the 85. He's been really good this year. Harry Sheezel with the 136. Very good from him. He had a 51 disposal performance against the Tigers last year. I kind of forgot about who he played.
Kind of wish he did that again.
Yeah. I only had the 39. I mean, what are you doing, Shees? Come on, get
one goal. What was annoying about that one was he kicked 1 goal 3. Could have absolutely dominated. Everyone's kicking straight for North Melbourne. He couldn't.
Yeah, good enough. Philanders with the 99 was pretty good, and Braden Cook with the 80 in the end was able to do pretty nicely. Blamirez on the bench did nice with the 72, and that's pretty much the best. And now getting to the worst. Farrow, first real disappointing game for him with the 58. I mean, it's hard to go too bad on a rookie, but still could have done a bit better. Lockie Jacks with the 46 on return. Beveridge took him out of the team, and now he's ruined his confidence. Terrible from Bevo.
I thought he would have done better, though, because, Butterick not being there, but it seemed like it was actually the thing that hampered him was the fact that he seemed... Well, not like he had a play-on-player, but that was down there a lot. You'd expect him to get a bit more score.
Yeah, you'd think so. Caleb Sarong only got 88 against the Eagles. I actually looked at his record because I was going to make him the captain for the week, but then I looked at his record against the Eagles in the last 2 games, and they weren't over 100, so I was like, quickly get rid of that. So I kind of dodged a bullet there, but 88, still would have expected more from him. Lockie McAndrew, I'm still okay with picking the rookie ruckman as the R2, but 65, I would have hoped for a little bit more against the Saints, but maybe Rowan Marshall is the answer for maybe if you play against TDK, we're at 100, maybe. I mean, we're still going on TDK here, but it seems like you're happy to trash him. Mm-hmm. Josh Rochelle with the 67. I thought he would have done a bit better than that. Yeah, 6'7". That's the second one you've done in this podcast now.
Oh, wait. Breaking news. The appeal for Zach Butters has just come in. We have...
suspended for 6
has won... No. Port Adelaide star Zach Butters has won his appeal against the finding against the abuse against Nick Foote.
So what, he didn't say it now?
I don't know. During the tribunal hearing, I think it was basically... So basically the argument was that the fact is that Jason Johnson left... the hearing to go into his car and leave was basically the saying that he didn't have a good, fair trial, really. Yeah. So he won he won that appeal. So
he won't get fined.
No. Perfect.
I mean, poor Zach Butters would have given up $1,500. But I mean,
and the funny thing is, he actually got fined on the weekend for a pro.
Yeah, I know. So fucking just gives up the money anyway. That's probably the reason why they just didn't give a fuck. They're like, we're getting money from him anyway. Who gives a shit? Anyway, back to the fantasy. And pretty much on the weekend, like, it wasn't too bad. Like Leo Lombard, I had to take his score because I needed to take a forward because I wanted to bring in Jacob Farrow. I had to bring him in because of the price generation, and I couldn't get there's no forward reserves.
No, that's what's annoying at the moment. There's no forwards coming in.
So I had to pick Lombard as a emergency score because Robertson I had in the team for the week, and I've been able to get rid of him this week, which we'll get to the trades in a moment, but had him as my captain, obviously, to then get Nick Dacos' vice captaincy score. So overall, a decent week, but I could have done better. How about you?
So last week I got 2,139, which was ranked 7,300, which is pretty good. Overall rank is 18,753, which I think is definitely better than you.
Wait, how much was it, sorry?
18,000.
Just better than me. You just jumped in front again.
Yeah. So a lot of the players you just mentioned played very well. The ones that I have differently, Sinclair, 117. Half drew his 17 disposals in the first quarter. I would have loved a better score than that. But I'll take 117.
I'll just take
Dan Houston, he's getting that annoying point at the moment, is that he got 110, but last week he got such a shitty score. McKercher, another 90. I'll take that one. Who's another one that played well? Oh, my vice captain in Brody Grundy was 130. And I was like, I had every single player for my team play this week. I had 30 players, so I couldn't take his vice captain's score. And I was like, it's going to bite me in the ass, isn't it? Shields going to have a shitty game, but no, Shiesel, as my captain, 272. I'll take that, lovely. I didn't have to use a trade on Petrarca, so 97 return was a brilliant score. And Laylor, he got 82, so he's the best scorer of the year, so I'll take that. To the lesser likes, to be honest, it was a lot of the rookies. Jagger Smith, Sarong, Farah, But the two players that I do have to mention, which one of them you already did, was Rochelle with 67 and Shea Bolton with 61. I feel like with Hayden Young coming back, he's not going to get the midfield time as much as I was going to hope.
But it was probably the bad trade of the year. Everyone gets a couple. But
everyone. That was probably my bad trade. But, and then on the bench, luckily I had Lockie McAndrew, which I thought was going to happen, maybe not this week against Ruckman and TDK, but, he got 65 against a good ruckman in Marshall. I did have Anderson on my not even on my emergencies, which was a bit annoying, but you take just the cash. Carroll and Grill less than 60. You don't really like that, but
cash generation's going to start going.
Yeah, I think this week is probably the last week that either of them are going to get money.
Yeah.
So you got to think about that. Even like Braden Cook getting 80 just makes him have another couple of weeks in the team, another cash generation. So, it was a good week. Looking at the score, 2,100, I thought everyone's going to score well this week. And then I realised that most people had Bontempelli who scored 30, less than 30. I think that was what most people, stuffed up that week.
They got a bit unlucky. I mean, Bontempelli just got absolutely mullen.
Yeah, but you got to think about, when you play. Yeah, so
you're not bringing him out of your team.
Yeah, you're not taking him out of your team, but there's a few that I've seen that had him as captain. And you're like, you got to rethink that one now. Yes. Now we're playing Geelong now.
Yeah, definitely a team that you have to buy it. You have to watch just to see. So we'll move to our trades now. Looking at my trades for this week, and I'm pretty happy with this. This is a trade that I wanted to do, and I wanted to probably get rid of a less price reserve, but I'm thinking this is a good move. So I've got rid of Sam Grell, I've picked up Angry Anderson, and then I've got rid of Devin Robertson and picked up Christian Petrarca. So I wanted to get rid of one of my forward reserves, but it's just not going to be. It's not viable, and I had to bring in Anderson for the cash generation. So I've gone with Sam Grell. He only went up 10k this week, so maybe he'll get one more week of price, maybe more money, but what's it going to be? Maybe 5k. I think that's probably the move now. Picked up Anderson, and then Devin Robertson, obviously out with the ACL for the rest of the year, so I had to get rid of him. And Christian Petrarca, there's probably no other forwards that you can pick up right now. He's the best forward. He's still priced at under $1 million, so I think it's pretty good. And with likely Brian Myers being out with an ACL, I don't know if you saw that news.
Yeah.
There's really no other forwards to pick from. And you could go with a Jezza Cameron, but it's always very risky going with a key forward. And there's not really any other forwards you can really choose. I looked around and I think, there's not really much that you're looking at and you're like, that's a guy you're going to bring in. Like maybe a Justin McInerney. But the other ones like up the top, like Sheasel I've got, Cozzy Pickett I've got. Jason Horne-Francis is a shout as well. He's definitely improved in the last couple of weeks. But there's not a lot of other ones that you can pick from. I think that's probably the last forward that you can, at the moment though, with my forward line. That's probably the last spot I've got though, is the Braden Cook position. At forward 6. So that's probably the last forward spot I've got to either fill with a McInerney or a Jason Horne-Francis right now. Overall, happy with the team, how it's going with the trades. Hopefully there's no other fucking injuries. That's probably the one issue right now. But I think in the next couple of weeks is definitely get rid of the cash generators, the cash cows,
and hopefully some actually come into the 18 clubs that we have. You think you're a forward some sort of rookie would show something. Let's just hope one comes in.
Yeah, I tried to look at the reserves for the last couple of weeks, and there's just not really any players in the reserves getting in the forward line that's just going to look like they're screaming out.
No,
the team.
like I was thinking like Oscar Steen. I'm like, ugh.
I mean, it may be the option.
It might be the option, but it's like, it might be. To be honest, it's this week, or you probably missed the opportunity for him.
Yeah.
To be honest,
if you're going to pick from Anderson or Steen, you're going to pick Anderson.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that's probably the move. Oh, so quick, just before we move on to your trades, currently in my salary, I've got 92k.
Yep.
So it probably does mean that I'm going to be getting rid of another reserve this week. I don't really know who it's going to be as of yet. I mean, I've got a couple of options. You're looking at a Lindsay, who's probably going up. I mean, he's going still up about 40k, so that's not too bad. Jai Sarong is probably around the mark. Jagger Smith, who had like a blistering start to the year, has really fallen off. And I don't think he's generating much more cash at this moment in time. He only went up 13k this week, so I've actually got him out of my team at the moment. I've got him out of my team. I'm putting in Anderson and Murdoch's still in pretty good form, so that's going to be a tough watch right now. Quickly on the captaincy at the moment, I've got my vice captain on Nick Dacos and Anzac Day. I think it's a pretty good shout. And then I've got currently my captain as Lockie Ash against the Roos. I did think of Zach Butters, but I think it's just Geelong. That's just not viable after Bontempelli's performance last week. Sarong is a decent shout against the Blues, but I don't know as of yet. Luke Jackson maybe as the ruckman. Darcy Cameron had a pretty good game on the weekend. Harry Sheezel against the Giants. After the game with Isaac Heaney last week, I think that he could be susceptible to a tag. Cosy Pickett also could be a shout, but I think it's a bit
against Richmond. Yeah, I thought about Jack Steele. It was like the last 2 weeks he hasn't got 130s. He's got 187. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But I think
so just hoping the Nick Dacos has a big game on Anzac Day. But let's move to your trades.
So this week I got rid of Jack Carroll for Patrick Grucheski for Richmond. Reshko, whatever.
That's his name,
yeah. And then I got rid of Sam Lawler for Justin McInerney.
How many times have you got rid of Sam Lawler? The start of the week and then I've had to change the trade.
No, this is the first week.
I think
I'm mentioning getting rid of him, but he gets an 82 and I'm like, do I keep him? I'm like, no.
More players that I need to get rid of.
There's more players that I know can get an 100. Like I was thinking of getting rid of Shea Bolton to get a McInerney, but I was like, if I can get rid of, I know it will give me an extra cash in the bank, but I know Shea Bolton can turn around and get 100 this week.
Yeah.
Laylaw, I don't think can do it. And I think, 82, it gives him a bit more cash for this week. So, luckily for me, I can get a Justin McInerney who seems like he's going to get the play. He may get that tag, but I'm going on with the fact is that they go Heaney, Warner, then maybe a McInerney for Sydney, then go McInerney straight up.
Yeah.
And, like you said, Horn Francis, I'm like, no. No, I just think that
not trusting enough.
No, not yet. I think he's too injury prone. And I was thinking Cosy Pickett, but in 2 weeks they play you guys. And I'm like, I know he dominated last year, but I don't think it could be. It might be my biggest misstep not getting this week. But I think there's more chance of McInerney playing well for the next couple of weeks than Cosy Pickett playing Sydney in 2 weeks. So, which will leave me with 20k at the moment. So that's...
You pretty much banked out after that move to McInerney.
Kind of. So, yeah, I could go back to Shea Bolton and give the extra 150k. Well, 100k, sorry, but I don't think...
But I think Fremantle up against the Blues, you'd think that Bolton could have a decent score there.
Yeah. So, I did actually the same thing as you did, is that I put Jagger Smith on the bench. I just don't trust it anymore. I think that 3 weeks in a row, he's got 60, 70, 60. It's like, can't trust that. So, yeah, I did the same thing as you, as I played Murdoch and Anderson into the team. Yeah. So this week, at the moment, I've got vice captaincy on Brodie Grundy against Bulldogs. That probably
if English is out,
especially if English is out, I may even do something stupid and maybe just put in his captain and just expect him to get 120. I know, but that's the only case that happens is that the same case that happened this week is that I have 30 players play.
Yeah,
like this week. If I have an extra player, I definitely don't do that. Take that risk, but yeah. But I'm gonna go with the probably outside the box call here. I'm going on captaincy on Archie Roberts.
Oh, no. What are you doing?
200s in a row.
Against the Pies?
Might be the play.
They don't have it down there enough.
Yeah, but I think the way he's playing at the moment, the mark kick game, this is just very early. I don't think it will stay that way, but at the moment, I don't really like Sheasel. I think gets the tag, but Traka, I think being up in the humid weather of Gold Coast, going down to Tassie will frighten him, and
frighten a lot of the Gold Coast players.
Yeah, and like even a still is that I don't really trust him yet. I've trusted him 2 weeks ago, and he kind of burned me. So and even Sinclair against West Coast, he's actually had a very good record at Marvel as well, Sinclair. So that might be the play as well.
Yeah. But guys, that's pretty much it for AFL Fantasy for this week. Actually, just quickly, we'll look at the ladders for the respective channels. In the head-to-head league, I had the guy who has all the whole Gold Coast team, so that was a pretty easy win for me.
Oh, that's I was looking at that. So in round 12, I think the Gold Coast play obviously have the bye. That the guy who plays him won't get anything, will he? Because he doesn't get a score. So technically, minus the percentage won't actually go up, will it?
The percentage won't go up, I don't think. No.
Oh wait, no, because he's got technically an overall score,
The week that they don't have the bye, it will be very interesting to see. But a lot of the players that he's got in as well just don't score. He's got a lot of players. I think he's even got in his team. But anyway, I moved up into 9th spot. Sorry. No, I moved down to 9th spot. How did I go down? I won a game. Anyway, you've moved into 10th, so you're right behind me. Just outside the top 8 I am right now.
I'm the lowest out of anyone that's got 2 wins, so I'll take that.
You're the highest out of the teams that have got 2.
Yeah.
Because you got. But looking at the overall ladder for that league, I am currently in 9th spot. Went right down after that performance. You are in 6th spot, so you got a better overall score. Oliver Stinks is on top right now.
I got the 4th highest score last week.
It's not good enough though. Oliver Stinks is on top of both the season league and the overall league, so good start from him. I've got Sean 93 this week, which is ranked in 3rd spot on the season ladder and on the overall ladder. So pretty big team this week. But moving to the overall league, the Open League, and this is the celebrity pick, the Warn Dogs, Warnie. He is on top of our league at the moment. Currently looking at it, just trying to see where you are on the ladder. You should be in the top 40. You are in 33rd spot. I'm in 38th spot. So pretty high right now.
19 points at the moment. 19 points.
Separates us.
Yep.
Wait, wow. That's considering like the ranking's so hugely different. Like it's 2,000 different considering it's only 19 points. It's actually quite close. So it's going to be very close running into the rest of the year. But yeah, looking at it right now, the points are very, very close. It's only 19 points, and unfortunately, we only get to see the top 50, so we don't get to see who's in 81st spot, unfortunately. Maybe that Gold Coast guy at the moment. But guys, that's pretty much what we have for you for this episode of the Band Riders Podcast, episode 155. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave us a like and subscribe over on YouTube. And if you are listening over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow because, well, one, I asked really nicely, and I think I haven't said that enough lately. Andrew Dillon loves the show, as I mentioned throughout it. So make sure to, rate us 5 stars, but also make sure to follow so you're notified on the podcast every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.